Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming today, and all of you that have tuned in online. Welcome to the April 12th, 2022 Daytona Beach Shores City Council meeting. Sherry, can you take the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Miller.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lindauer.
Here.
Councilmember Bryan.
Here.
Councilmember Frizzlone.
Here.
Councilmember Place.
Here.
Thank you, Sherry. Reverend Bob, can you step forward?
As you're able, I invite you to stand as we come together. Let us pray. Gracious and holy God, we come together today thankful for this beautiful day that you have given us to live and to love and to serve. We are mindful that for Christians this is Holy Week as we gather tonight. But we are mindful also of the holy occasions of people of other faiths as they coincide with this Holy Week. We are mindful as well that love for neighbor is a value that crosses all traditions of faith and practices of human understanding. So remind us once again of that love for neighbor as we come together and conduct the business of this city. We thank you for the tireless efforts of elected officials, of the staff of the Shores, and of neighbors and friends who come together and volunteer time to make this city a wonderful place to live, to work, and to visit. We ask that you would be in the midst of the deliberations of this body this evening. Grant them your wisdom, your peace, and your urgings toward justice. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, and next we have a special evening with a presentation of our new public safety officers. Director Dubinsky, can you come up and introduce us and tell me who these lovely people are?
Well, I can't remember all their names because there's so many of them. I'm only kidding. But would you all stand up, please? And thanks for coming. So 15 months ago, I came to you, as you know, and you jumped on and said, okay, whatever you need to do to start hiring. So there's 7 today. There's one more. They're just either have already been through or just getting through their year of probation. And I thought I'd just bring them here and bring Brianna and Jake and Ray, and they're all here. These are wonderful employees. There's more new people. There's some more in schools. There's some of them a couple of them there are triple trained. A couple of them still have schools to go to. But this is the future of Daytona Beach Shores, and I just wanted to bring them here. Some of them work today, some work tomorrow, some are working tonight, but there they are, and they've made their probation. So, and like you said, one of them's on vacation. So
I said vacation
yeah.
already?
His name is Enrique. He's on vacation, but thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. The one thing
Chief, can I remain standing so they can recognize me in case they see me hauling ass down Peninsula?
Tell them which car you have, the Batmobile.
That'll keep them on their toes.
Jacob on the side, they'll get embarrassed, but he's in the National Guard. He just got back from 2-week tour in active duty in Alaska. And these are young people. Like
Thank you for
they're
your
the
service.
future of the agency. Leah's a medic. You guys, you understand that we all live in this community. These people save lives almost every day. Almost every day I come in and they've done something to save somebody. And they're an amazing group. There's more of them working and that haven't quite got through their probation, but we're hoping that this is going to last a long time. So thank you for coming, guys. I really appreciate it.
On behalf of the City Council and the entire staff, we are just so pleased to have you with us. We're so proud of you. I came to some of your swearing-ins, and I'm looking for great things going forward. So thank you very much for picking Daytona Beach Shores as your place to live.
Yes, welcome to you all, and just know that we have your back and you've got our full support.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. You can go back to work now.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to go on to the approval of the city council minutes from March 22nd, 2022. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as is?
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Thank you. Do we need any discussion on any items on the minutes?
The minutes don't really need to be changed. I just want to clear up one minor detail. That bill, the smoking bill, it has not actually gone to the governor yet. There are a lot of bills that get passed, and the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House decide when they actually get sent to the governor. So once they do get sent to the governor, I think he has 15 days to either sign, veto, or if he doesn't sign it, it goes into law without his signature.
Okay, well, thank you for that
It doesn't
clarification.
really need to be changed.
Is there a certain time period that it needs to go up to him?
Well, the bill becomes law in the 1st of July, so I'm assuming that it'll get there before the middle of June.
Well, thank you for that update. Okay, next we'll move on to our consent agenda.
Mayor, we need to go to the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need a vote on the, go ahead, Sherry.
Councilmember Frizzlo,
Yes.
Councilmember Politis,
Yes.
Mayor Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Sherry. We only have one item on the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to accept that as is without pulling anything?
I
Move to
move.
accept as is.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please?
Councilmember Politis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer.
Yes.
Councilmember Frizzlo,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next, we're going to go on to our city attorney's report. Nice to see you here this evening, Becky.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. With regard to the work that was done in the last couple of weeks, the first one is the Oceans 25 plat. We spoke with multiple surveyors, staff, the title attorney, to resolve issues with the legal description and easement for the Oceans 25 plat. It's really necessary that those are exactly right so that there aren't problems later. We completed negotiations with regard to the city manager contract, and we finalized the contract, and it's going to be on the agenda. It is on the agenda for tonight for approval. John met in person with city staff to review forms and applications and potentially to update the non-exclusive franchises for hauler agreements. This has to do with construction and debris removal in the city. With regard to El Caribe, we met with the developer and city staff regarding possible development agreement or rezoning of the property, and that's in very early stages. And we also provided legal advice to staff regarding animal control issues relating to public safety in the Halifax Humane Society.
Thank you. Any questions for our city attorney? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yes, did we get everything settled with the Oceans 25 plat? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And that'll be on the agenda later on this evening under new business, correct? The Ocean's 25.
Yes.
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 Okay. That's all right, I'm sorry. Okay, next we're going to go on to our city manager, Michael Booker. What do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight, I have an update on Peck Park. We're still waiting for completion of the playground equipment and the announcement of the grand opening. I talked to Ed Peck Jr. at the Treasure Island demolition, and he has not heard anything yet, but as soon as we do, I'm sure we'll get an invite from the county to attend that. In regards to Treasure Island, I want to thank everybody that was involved in bringing the demolition of the structure about. We're all looking forward to the redevelopment of that iconic property, and it was long overdue, and I think the stars just aligned perfectly, and we were able to get that done. Regarding Armed Forces Day, that's coming up May 21st. For a few years now, we've been trying to get one of the branches of the service bands to perform at our annual celebration. This year, thanks to Nancy Maddox, we're going to have a quintet from the Navy Band that will be performing on Saturday, May 21st. So I hope everyone is able to come out and attend that celebration. It's a great event. I think this year our speaker will be former city manager and county council candidate Jake Johansson, who's a Navy commander. And I'm sure he will have some words, great words to impart on that day. Before I complete my report, this is a bit of a surprise for the mayor. She did complete the Leadership Academy, Leadership Academy 1 at the Florida League of Cities, and we did receive that completion certificate today, and I wanted to give that to you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I want to go back to the Treasure Island just for a minute, and I know we've talked about this so much, but I don't know how many people were able to attend that event. It was just a fantastic event. I told the story about, I don't think Acres thought we were going to have as many people as we did. Joe Hopkins maybe can verify that. He said, wow, you have a lot of, so I think we had 300 or just a little over 300 people, and that's how much people wanted to come out and support us in doing that. And I just want to, again, thank our staff very, very much for working on that. I want to thank Councilman Frizzalone. I was working with Jay Moore, and that fell through, and we knew when Acres Properties, or LLC, was taking it back over, he immediately reached out to them. At that time, I know he was working on trying to get something else at that location. As it turned out, and maybe for the best, we ended up demolishing it. Someday something beautiful will be there, someday. Don't know when that is, but I'm hearing that we might, I go by almost every day and I'm seeing some progress, but maybe not as much as I thought. I originally thought they had said 2 to 3 weeks, but maybe we misunderstood. Stuart, do you have any other information you can tell us on that, on a crane or anything going on there?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, Stuart Cruz with the City of Daytona Beach Shores. So, Madam Mayor, the scope of work that was provided in the bids to the city showed that the work would actually take about 8 weeks, basically 2 months. So we know that they're working very slowly towards that. We know that they've been having issues for the last week or so with overheating of the equipment, with the crawler, as they call it. And they've actually flown in parts. They actually flew in one of the manufacturer's representative to remedy that issue, and it's my understanding that they were up and working again today.
Okay, great. In that 8 weeks, is that demolition and restoration?
It's demolition only, and then there's another 30 days in which the restoration would occur.
All right. And and I know people sometimes are a little impatient, but all I can say is took us 18 years to get to this point. If it's going to take 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, I'm hoping that everyone will be patient with it.
Yes, and the demolition contractor, Madam Mayor, council members feel that they're very confident that despite the delay that they had last week, that they will still meet the deadline that was prescribed in the stipulated agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Stuart? Okay, again, thank you, City Council, for working with Acres and approving the stipulated agreement. You can see the result of that building will be coming down. Okay, thank you. Okay, so next we will go on to old business, and this is a second reading. This is ordinance 2022-10. Attorney Boyce, can you read that for us, please?
Yes, this is ordinance number 2022-10, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, relating to townhome development, amending the Municipal Code of Ordinances, Land Development Code, amending Appendix G, amending Chapter 14 entitled Zoning Regulations by amending Section 14-19 entitled RMF-2, Multifamily Residential District, Medium Density, to amend the minimum lot size required for townhome development, providing for enforcement and penalties, providing for a savings provision, providing for codification, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you.
I move we approve 2022-10.
I second it.
All right, any discussion? This is a second reading, so is there anyone in the audience that has anything to say on ordinance 2022-10? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Platus?
Yes.
Councilmember Frizalone?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Okay, next, we're going to go on to ordinance 2022-11. Liz, can you read that for us, please?
Yes, ma'am. This is ordinance 2022-11, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, relating to freestanding signs, amending the Municipal Code of Ordinances, Land Development Code, amending Appendix G, amending Chapter 6 entitled Signs and Advertising by amending Section 6-7 entitled Removal of Abandoned, Deteriorated, and Other Nonconforming Signs, to extend the amortization period for nonconforming ground and pole signs, providing for enforcement and penalties, providing for a savings provision, providing for codification, providing for concurring ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Stuart, can you come back up again? You know, we've talked about this before, and I think the last time that we did this, we just approved it. We approved it for a year. Was that April 9th, 2022 to April 9th, 2023? Is that the correct dates?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, that is correct.
So this evening, do we just need to decide if there is any grant money attached to it?
So this is a separate item from the grant program. The grant program is later on in the agenda. This would actually be the second reading for the ordinance that would extend the one-year deadline for people to bring, for property owners to bring their non-conforming pole signs into conformity.
Okay, great. Thank you for
So
the
they
explanation.
would be able to do basic maintenance and whatnot, but they would be able to improve their sign in such a way that it would make it more non-conforming.
Okay, thank you. So again, this is a second reading. If there's any public participation, anyone wants to speak on this? If not, do I hear a motion to accept?
I move we approve 2022-11.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Sure, can you take a roll on that, please?
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Platus?
Yes.
Councilmember Frizalone?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we're going to talk about new business, our city manager contract. And Becky, will you lead us in that discussion, please?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, y'all have a copy of the contract. There's one very minor change. It's actually just changing out a reference in a Florida statute. It's towards the bottom of page 2. And the copy that you originally had references Florida statute section 215.425. I prefer to reference the base Florida statute, which is 443.03629. So that's the only change, that y'all have a new copy of it. But this was negotiated at the request of the city council. Y'all had previously selected Mr. Swartzlander to be your new city manager. And under the charter of the city, we had to have a written agreement with him. Now, the contract provides that he serves at the pleasure of city council, and it requires a 60 days notice if he resigns, and provides 20 weeks of severance pay if he is terminated, except that he wouldn't receive the severance pay if he's terminated as a result of criminal conviction or misconduct. And that's actually the statute that I changed here. The annual salary is $153,000 a year and is subject to increases as deemed appropriate by the city council based on an annual evaluation. The contract also provides for the city to provide health and dental insurance and liability insurance and a term life insurance policy. It also requires the city to pay 3% of his base salary into a deferred compensation plan. The contract also provides a $700 per month vehicle allowance in annual and sick leave. Finally, the contract requires the city to pay for dues and travel for professional development as the city manager. It does change the performance evaluation requirement as compared to the current city manager. The contract follows the charter requirement, which the previous contract did not. But the charter requires a review and evaluation of the city manager by June 1st of every year. And so y'all would be doing that review beginning in 2023, and to jointly define goals and performance objective. The contract was negotiated by our office and the city manager designee, as well as the mayor became involved in some of the negotiations as to some of the terms. But does anybody have any questions?
Is this public participation?
Yes, before you vote on it, there will be public participation, and it will require, a motion, a second, and a vote.
Okay, great. Well, let's start out with public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that has anything that they want to ask, any questions? Anything at all they'd like to talk about as we welcome our new city manager? Okay, if not, do you hear a motion to accept this
We approve the contract.
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion on this whatsoever?
Well, I would like to just say that I feel we're extremely lucky to be considering a contract to hire such a qualified person as Stuart. That's Kurt. We'll just go.
Congratulations, Stuart.
That got you, huh? Yeah. He's proven himself as a valuable team member as both our city's finance director and assistant city manager. And getting a city manager with Kurt's background as the finance director just makes the choice that much easier for me. His experience will certainly come in handy as we strive to continue our great city's debt-free financial status. I'm an enthusiastic yes vote to approve the contract to hire Kurt as our next city manager.
Thank you. And I think we all feel the same way, as myself. I first of all want to thank our city manager, Mike Booker, for the succession plan that he has put in place. I mean, he promoted Kurt about a year and a half ago to that position, has mentored him, and so it was an easy transition. So, Mr. Booker, thank you very much for doing that. You gave us a wonderful candidate, big shoes to fill, but I'm in the office at least a couple times a week, and I see how Kurt has taken on the extra responsibility, no complaints while still doing his finance job. So I, again, like our Vice Mayor Phil, we're very fortunate. With me being on a lot of the mayor's calls, I hear about how they have to go out to a recruiting for a search and have 50 candidates and narrow it down to 25 and then 6. And we didn't have to do that. So again, we are very blessed and privileged to have Kurt with us today. Thank you, Kurt.
I like to just echo the blessed part. I cannot state enough how blessed we are to have Kurt, and I can't thank Mike, our city manager, enough for the way you've hired and developed, and I can't agree more. I've been working with Kurt now for almost 4 years, and I will tell you, we are just so very blessed and fortunate to have him, and again, I think we are just in great stead, and Kurt, thank you for stepping up here. I know you got big shoes to fill, but we have all the confidence in the world in you.
Okay, anyone else?
I'd like to just dovetail everyone's comments. Yeah, the qualifications are there, the experience is there, but you know what? Since Kurt's been here, the relationships have been established, that continuity. He knows the staff, he knows who's strong, who's medium, maybe who needs a little more encouragement. And so it makes it a great segue now that Mike is going to retire and Kurt's going to take over. It was the best thing that we could do as a city council, and I know the citizens support you, and of course the staff adores you. So welcome to the position, and thank you, and I'm so glad that negotiations went smooth, because now we appreciate you, and you're being respected, and now you're going to step up to the plate. You're going to have to do what we expect you to do, and I think you're going to do it. It's going to be wonderful. So congratulations.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. Sure. I've had a chance to talk with Kurt some about things like management principles, and it appears that he still remembers a lot of the stuff he learned about his MBA, including things like setting objective objectives that are measurable. And he also agrees that part of the city manager's job, or actually the main part, is to provide the services in a cost-effective manner. So I'm looking forward to him actually applying what the principles that he has learned that a manager should apply.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, and so we do need a motion and a second?
Yes.
Oh, wait,
We have a
already had-
Oh, we already, I'm sorry, that was, okay. So, yeah, so we'll take the roll now, please.
Councilmember Bryan.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer.
Yes.
Councilmember Pledis.
Yes.
Councilmember Frislow.
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes. Welcome.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
Bring your lovely family up.
Yes, you're going to embarrass them.
I know. All right. Hensley, we're going to make you speak next.
For those of you that, I think you've all met my wife before, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet my kids. These are two of my 4 kids. I have a daughter up at Florida State and a son up at Florida School for the Deaf and Blind. So they're in school, hopefully studying, et cetera. This is my wife, Stacy, my son, Jaden, and my daughter, Kinsley.
Both going to Florida State soon, correct?
Yes, both going to Florida State as freshmen next year, so.
Empty nest.
We have 3
Congratulations.
Florida
Great.
State. So, yeah.
I hear some boos.
Anyway, thank you for coming up.
Yes, thank you. If I may, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say thank you to this council and to Mr. Booker for 4+ years of mentorship. And when I came for my interview here, that was one of my questions for Mr. Booker was, what are your long-term plans? Because I always had a plan that I wanted to be a city manager someday. And my goal was to get my kids out of the house first. Family has always come first to me, and I'm basically at that point. And I know retirement's a little earlier than we talked about, 4+ years ago, but thank you for the last 4 years. And you've left the city in a great position, and I hope to build on that. We have a great city. I love the city. I've really come to love the city in the last 4 years. And I just hope to build on the things that this council has done, that past councils have done. And the comment was earlier made about staff, and we have some great folks coming. We've had other retirements, and we have great folks coming in behind. Mr. Booker has done a great job with succession planning, and we have some great folks coming in to fill those slots. So we're going to have lots of new energy. So hopefully we can do lots of great things in the future for this city and its citizens, because we have a great community. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz, can you come back up? We're going to go on now to the reinstitution of the non-conforming sign removal incentive grant program, the one that I was a little bit ahead. All right, so can you talk to us about this, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Again, this is Stuart for the record. So you may recall on March 8th, which was just a few weeks ago, the City Council, by a voice vote, essentially directed staff to reinstitute or come up with a draft of the reinstitution of the grant program that we have for non-conforming signs. In 2012, when the monument sign ordinance was established, the City Council at the time established a grant program that actually eased the burden for property owners to essentially remove their old signs and put up new monument signs. And that program expired a 1.5 years ago, I believe. And so after the council directed staff in March of last month, we essentially drafted the grant program to essentially mirror what was done originally. We made some little tweaks here and there, like for example, the first grant program, we needed 3 quotes, but now we're saying because it's really hard to get contractors nowadays, all we need is 2 quotes. We also put a deadline in for application for the grant program because we know the lead time for construction for signs is anywhere from 3 to 6 months and what have you. So we really don't want to have applications, meeting the deadline for the removal of the actual signs matching each other. That would be a disaster for us. So staff is recommending approval of this. If this is approved by the City Council, we will go ahead and send out letters to all the property owners who have non-conforming signs and essentially remind them of the grant program and remind them of the deadline as well. what you will not see in the grant program is an actual dollar amount. And the reason why we don't have a dollar amount is because we know that there's different ideas out there in terms of, how much we should be offering, to these businesses. We know that the last grant program that we had, the last section of the grant program that we had, the dollar amount that was actually issued out was $1,300. So it was a 50-50 dollar-for-dollar matching program, and the last section of that grant program actually only gave $1,300. So if they spent $2,600, they get their $1,300. If they spent $10,000 on their sign, they would still only get $1,300. So staff is looking for the city council for guidance on how much this dollar amount would actually be.
Okay, Stuart, can you tell me, and it's probably hard to answer, a sign that we're going to be requiring for the last person that got it? Do you have any estimate how much these signs run? I mean, I don't, when you said 26, yeah.
The signs that have been built recently, and at any time whenever a sign is built, it's always a function as to the how many bells and whistles they have, the size of the sign and the bells and whistles. So, for example, if you're building a digital sign, you're talking 20 grand. If you're talking a standard sign without the bells and whistles, you're talking anywhere from about $6,000 to maybe $10,000, $12,000, depending on the size of the sign.
Okay, and did we talk about that there was 20-some properties that we were going to relook at again and perhaps take out of there? Are we talking about that this evening, or is that another?
No, we're not talking about that right now. So there are some, and I've spoken with other staff about this. There are some aspects of the sign ordinance that we might have to tweak later on in the future, and we'll be getting with the city attorney's office to go ahead and propose something in the near future that would address those tweakings. But that's not what we're discussing tonight. What we're discussing tonight is whether or not the grant program will be reinstituted and how much the dollar amount will be to match whatever the businesses are putting forward. And this is to ease with the cost of building a new sign in this day and age. We know that in the last 2 to 3 years, because of the pandemic and issues with supply chains, it's been really difficult in local businesses, mom and pops and whatnot. And so this is just something that I believe the city council wanted to do to ease some of the burden for the last couple of years that they've had in terms of losing revenues and dealing with the pandemic.
And I'm sorry, I have a couple other questions. So the 1,300, what was the step up from that?
The step up from that, I believe, was $2,600, if I remember correctly. And that was a fiscal year prior to that.
Okay. And of the 1,300, how many did we issue that to?
So the $1,300 recipient, I believe it was only one.
Okay, all right. We're in a discussion right now. Woe be to them that if they didn't get this done in 10 years for whatever reason. I mean, we had, COVID was here 2.5 years, whatever that was, whatever excuse they had. So my objective here is to get this done, and if we can put a little money in the pot, that's fine, if the signs, so I'm looking at whoever paid that $1,300, whatever we decide today, I'm looking somewhere about a $2,000 grant. So I would want to make sure that person that paid $1,300, we reimburse him, the $700. But what other, what else, I'd like to hear from the council. Okay, Mike?
I think rather than put a dollar figure, I'd rather put a percentage. That way, if someone wants to purchase a more elaborate sign, let's say they want to do a $15,000 sign, I'm thinking of the numbers that we've given before, about 20%, 15-20%, which no city really does that, but we're different here. So if someone is going to acquire and install a $15,000 sign, 20%, the city's going to kick in $3. Someone gets a $10,000 sign, they're going to get $2. And if the average, and I agree with your representations, the average sign's from 6 to 10, 6 to 12 grand fabrication, and so I thought maybe the percentage would be more fair and would be more of a reasonable, because we want to give them incentive, but then we don't want to upset the citizens by saying, oh, you're giving away the money.
I can agree with that, but I would want a cap on that. So, if somebody came up with a $40,000.
Right.
So, yes.
And I agree with you. You're right. Let's go ahead and put a cap with that.
On that, but then looking at that, so let's use the one that's $15,000 and we did it 20%, that's $3,000. But then we would have to go back to see how many of the people at $2,400. Do we have that number?
There's only one.
Oh, Kurt has the number. There's only one?
There's only one that was Pirates Island in 2022, and they got 1,300. There was none supposedly in 2021.
Correct. We had nobody who qualified for the $2,400 or $2,500 one. It was, the next bracket was $3,900, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those.
Okay, all right.
So if you did cap it, say, at 3,000, you would be, we would only have to go back and look at Pirates Island for the percentage.
So that one would then be 1,700?
Whatever, I don't know what they spent on their sign offhand, so whatever.
Okay,
their-
okay.
Yeah, so we would go back to them and say, okay, especially since you complied with our 10 years, and we'll make up the difference.
All right, I want to hear from everyone. Councilor Frizzleland, how do you feel about this?
All right, my question to you is, what is the average cost of the sign?
It varies greatly. Based on, what Stuart had just said was, it can be, if it's a base sign, simple front panel, it might be 6,000 to 7,000.
7,000?
But if you do
I
it
guess
with multiple panels and then you add like the digital sign, you could easily spend $40,000, $50,000 on these signs.
If you take the $6,000 and you take that times 15%, that's $900. And so that person would suffer, given the mayor is saying $2,000. So if you're going to have a maximum, you have to have a minimum. I mean, at the end of the day, if the majority of the people are in that range, they're the ones that are suffering at the expense of the wealthier person because he's got more money to spend. So you don't want to shortchange the guy in the maximum. So maybe to the mayor's point, you have a $2,000 minimum and a $3,000 maximum with a 15% percentage. So that would be my only. The majority of people will suffer under the percentage, because if what you're saying is true, and I have no doubt that it is, that if you're spending $6,000 to $7,000 as your average sign, so even if you take $10,000 times, you're talking $800. The mayor's willing to give $2,000. That person suffers because we're trying to take care of the guy who's got.
Yeah, good point, good caveat to put in there. And probably too, those prices you're quoting us, as we know, everything has gone up, so who even knows if you can get a $6,000 or $7,000 sign?
You might not be able to in this market, but we can easily do a sliding scale like that with a min and a max.
If we're willing to do $2,000, and I agree with the mayor's position on it, then we should do $2,000 across the board. And if anybody wants to step up and do something bigger, then we go with Councilman Politis's 15%.
With a cap, though.
At $3,000, correct.
$3,000 cap.
I think that's easy peasy.
Yeah, I think that works for me. $2,000 minimum, $3,000 cap based on a percentage.
With 15%, I think that was the number that was, so.
And then we would have to reimburse Pirates Island for
Yeah, we
any.
would go back and look at their application and their
Falls
sign
within
cost.
if it falls within the limits, then we're fine, but if it doesn't, we would have to reimburse them to make sure that they didn't get.
But they'd get a minimum of $700.
Minimum of
regardless.
$700 or
Right,
up
more.
to $1,700 if they spent the max.
Yeah, that makes it fair for them.
And then, Councilman Bryan, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have.
You're okay. So if that works for everyone, now, are we talking today, I don't know the reason why they didn't take advantage of it, but I'm hoping they don't think that we are not, when we say April 9th, 2023, I think you and I had a conversation too about building permits. Can you go into that, or is this not the time we wanted?
No, it actually kind of is a follow-up to what you adopted under old business tonight, the extension. So now that there were two pieces that we wanted to put into a letter that's going to go out to all 69 properties. The extension date, did the second vote on that, so we got that piece, and then what grant money was going to be available, if any. Now that we have those two things, once you vote on the grant piece, we will be crafting a letter to go out to each of them in a very strong but subtle way of saying we're serious about the deadline and we're making grant monies available, but you need to comply in a very much softer way than that. Soft but strong.
Yeah, the penalties can be worse than paying for the sign, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Currently $250 a day? Is it $250?
Currently $250 a day, yes, for non-compliance.
So in 1 month, there's your $6,000 sign.
So we would just need a motion and a second to do the 2,000 minimum, 3,000 max at 15%.
I have a, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
What does the deadline apply to? Is it the application?
The application, yes. Well, there's a couple different deadlines in there, and maybe you can address the deadline better than.
Clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, so the deadline for application would be November this year. And the reason for that is because there's a lead time that's involved in terms of getting the sign manufactured and getting it in the ground. And so in order to meet that deadline, you'd essentially have to have the sign in the ground. 1-year deadline, that is.
When would the penalties begin? After April? Say if I'm December and I don't have my application in, do I not get a penalty till April?
So our code enforcement officer will be very busy at that time. So essentially the process, we'll give them a courtesy call, try to, have them get a permit in as soon as possible. If within a reasonable period of time they don't have a permit in, then we'll issue them a notice of violation and they'll have a formal fixed time to get it resolved. If not, then they'll be cited and they'll be in front of the special magistrate, and this special magistrate will bring down whatever judgment he feels necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Let me recap this to see if I understand. The November deadline, if they don't get an application in there, they've missed the grant.
For the grant.
And if they don't get it in the ground by April, they also miss the grant. Is that correct?
April 2023 is the deadline to have the sign removed. They've not been following guidelines.
It's removed. It doesn't have to, the new sign doesn't have
If
to.
they don't want to put a new sign, that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
And
All right, who would like to recap it? Councilman Politis, would you like to?
So, with regards to the particulars of what Stuart was saying, I think that's already incorporated in what you have with regards to code enforcement. So the only thing that Stuart and staff needs from us today is to lay out the groundwork for the grant. Correct. So if I understand, we are going to offer 15% contribution, which is capped out at $3,000. But if you make an application for the grant program, you will receive no less than $2,000.
Okay, and is that your motion?
Yes, that's my motion.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Council, thank you very much for working with us on here. I know at one time we had thought, let's not give them anything, but my goal is to have this community beautiful with the lowering of the signs after all the money that we spent on the underground utilities. So the end goal in mind. So I think business should be very pleased that we came up with this to take advantage of it. Okay, Sherry, do you want to take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Portis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Frizzalone?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we're going to go on to Oceans 25, and all we're speaking about this evening is the plat, the subdivision.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. So this is just an administrative effort that the city is required to do under Chapter 177 of the Florida statutes. Everyone's familiar with the Oceans 25 townhome development. In order for the developer to actually sell these units, they have to subdivide, or what we call a plat, create a plat and have it approved by the city council, and then it's recorded. So each of these units, the 25 units, they cannot be sold until the plat is completed. In addition to that, the dedication of easements, such as the easement for the force main that the city has on the property, gets dedicated through this platting process as well, and other utilities as well for FP&L and whatever have you. So this is just an administrative thing that we typically go through whenever there's a plat. If there's any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer those.
What was the issue or issues, the major issues?
When you say major issues with regards to the plat?
Why do we have to do it?
Okay, so this is a requirement by Florida statutes.
Is there a plat that we had to amend, or?
Yes. Well, this particular area is part of a larger subdivision, and so there is sort of a new subdivision that's created within that subdivision, if you want to call it that. And the reason for that is so that the property owner can essentially sell fee simple each of these units.
There was not a plat for the.
There wasn't a plat for this specific development,
Understand.
consistent with the site plan. So other things that usually go through with the plat as well are, you know, streets, roads, common elements, you know, such as, in this case, it would be a stormwater retention pond. But this is something that we typically do whenever there's a subdivision in order for the developer to transfer ownership to new owners.
So do I hear a motion to approve Oceans 25 plat as presented?
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just wanted to question, is the city staff comfortable with the end result? I understand there was some back and forth.
So in terms of the plat process, there was a lot of back and forth going on. One of the requirements by the statute is that we actually hire a third-party surveyor to review it, consistent with the statute, and our surveyor, which is Slaggert & Associates, they reviewed it, and, you know, it was an arduous process, but we got both surveyors there, their surveyor and our surveyor to agree, and our surveyor was able to sign off on the statutory requirements with regards to the plat. So staff and the city attorney's office as well played a very integral role. And so I would say as staff in the city attorney's office that we're comfortable with it, and that's the reason why it's before you tonight.
Thank you. All right, Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please?
Councilmember Frislow?
Yes.
Councilmember Politis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go on to council comments, and I'll start. We have a lot of exciting things coming up quickly. April 29th will be our concert, and I want to invite everyone tomorrow to Coffee with the Mayor. We will have Senator Tom Wright, who really does a lot for Volusia County. When we went up to Tallahassee, he welcomed us in, and I want to talk to him, and I know Captain Fowler will be telling him tomorrow. He and Representative Tom Leake put a bill in for special events that's really going to help us going forward with Orange Crush, with the truck event, if it comes again. So anyway, if you're not busy tomorrow, if you could come at 10 o'clock, that'd be great. On May 11th, our Coffee with the Mayor will be with our city, Mike Booker, city manager. I mean, I'm still saying city manager. So we're just gonna really give Mike, you know, that day, there's gonna be a lot of events that we're gonna tell him how much we appreciate him. Thank you for everything he does. But Coffee with the Mayor that day will be devoted to him.
Is that going to be an evening?
No, that will be at 10 o'clock in the morning, the normal time. On May 21st, as City Manager Booker has already said, we'll have our Armed Forces Day, 10 o'clock right out here in Veterans Park with our Navy Quartet. Thank you, Nancy Maddox. And June 8th. That's the day that I'm going to introduce our new city manager to the city, and then he in turn is going to introduce all his staff. So all of his directors. So all the directors will be there that day, and I just want everyone to be familiar with their faces, what their role is, what they do, and how they can help the city. So that one will be an evening event. That will be 5 to 7 p.m. upstairs on June 8th. And that's all I have. So Councilman.
What day of the week is that?
A Wednesday. We got it, is that correct? Wednesday, the 8th, 5 to 7. Okay, so I'd like everyone to come.
There'll be no council meeting on the 7th, right?
Yes. No, we do not have it on the 7th because
Yeah,
that would only be,
right.
yes, we wouldn't have it till the following one. Councilman Politis, what do you have for us?
Nothing but really good comments. It's so nice welcoming Kurt as the new upcoming city manager, seeing the law enforcement officers finish their probation, or I guess they're still on probation, but the introduction. It's just good stuff. You know, when we sometimes watch the news and see what's going around the world, we're thankful for the things that we have in front of us, and you know, helping to do the best I can for this city and helping the city council. It's a wonderful thing. We're pretty lucky. This is a really special time, so we should really revere in it and really appreciate it, because not other people have it so good.
Absolutely. Life is better in the shores. Councilman Bryan, what do you have for us this evening?
I'll make a couple of comments about Oceans 25 that people might not be aware of. They had open houses this weekend, and I stopped there. I didn't actually get out of the car. I think the Evans company has 3 listings for 3 of them, and I was kind of surprised. You know, it's on a sign outside now, but for that end unit, they're asking $880,000. So that's just information. But one of the selling points they're emphasizing is a minimum 1 week rental. And I asked the agent, is the rumor that a bunch of units might be purchased by and then rented out as short-term rentals? And I guess they have at least gotten some offers. So I don't know that there's been any actual sale, and I checked with John Kerry, and if they do have a 1 week rental, there's not much we can actually do about it at this point. We could have done something about it in the development agreement stage, but at this stage, the city only has things like noise ordinances and stuff to deal with the short-term rental. So I just wanted people to be aware of that.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Politis stole my thunder. I wanted to congratulate Kurt and welcome him to his new position. And again, all the young officers who we hired and on our staff and helping to protect our city. I want to make sure that they know that they're welcome and that they're in a city that appreciates the police as opposed to some of the other places that don't.
Thank you. Councilman Frizzolo?
Yes, this is a bittersweet night for me, and I have loved Daytona Beach Shores, and there's 3 things that I have found out since I've been living here for the 6 years. One is I love the city, I love public safety and all that it does. I love the council and the city staff, but I have found out that Ellen and I are not condo people. It's just not our deal. And in addition to that, we are not big on beach driving. I'm trying to be kind here because it's all public information. So it's difficult to be oceanfront and have a parking lot and a highway in the middle of the beach. Whoever thought it was a great idea, again, it's 50-50 for those who say, I drove it, my kids drove it, and my grandkids are going to drive it. I say to you, mazel tov, but it's not for me. And it's not for Ellen. And so I have asked Sandy to sell my unit and to look for a property in Las Olas in Ponce Inlet. And I want to be totally transparent to my fellow council members and the mayor and to the citizens as well, as I will continue to serve, but I will not be running for re-election, and I will work with the mayor directly. For instance, I want to be very clear to the mayor, if there is someone whom you would like to appoint prior to an election, I will step aside gracefully. If you'd like me to stay on, I will, but I will leave that with you, and certainly, although there's sunshine laws involved, I would ask Kurt to be the spearhead to the other council members, and I say to my fellow council members, the vice mayor and Councilman Politis and Councilman Bryan, if you would like me to continue to serve, I will do that, and if not, I will step aside gracefully if you have somebody in mind that you'd like to appoint. So, it's a tough night, as you can see. It's an emotional night. It's a tough night, and I just, to the residents, I think I've done a good job. It's hard to believe that we actually have an economic development council person, given the work that I started and the fact that the city hired somebody like that, and to Joe Hopkins at Treasure Island as well, and to Oceans 25 and yada, yada, yada. But I've loved serving with you guys, and I've loved being part of this team. But unfortunately, the way the cards felt, I like my own home, and I like a tranquil beach, and that's the direction that we're in. And so I want to give everybody a thank you, and unfortunately, I'll serve as long as you want me to serve with you, but as I said, I will step aside gracefully if you have somebody in mind you'd like to appoint, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much for that, Councilman. Appreciate that. Wow.
Ooh.
Okay, that was,
What do you say after that?
yeah. All right, I called on everyone, didn't I? Okay, next we'll go audience comments, and John, is it Danis? Yes, John, if you'd like to come up, and when you come up, please state your name and address for the public record, please. And you will be given 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is John Danis. Address is 2837 South Atlantic Avenue, Also, we own the business at 2009 South Atlantic, which was Mixed Beach Hideaway. We've changed the name to Organic Beach Retreat, so you can check out our website and see what that's like. But my wife and I, we love Daytona Beach Shores. We bought a house here, we bought a business here, very invested in the community, and I'm honored to be standing up here and to voice a concern for the council. We all want to see the Treasure Island project be finished. We all do, we do. However, the process is causing a health hazard as well as some property compromises for the airborne dust that's happening during the process. The process of completing the desired task should not override public health. I think everybody would agree with that. The current process does not contain the dust and has created an airborne situation causing our guests to heavily complain about breathing issues. Cars are covered with dust, with cement dust, and amenities across our properties is covered with dust. We have had guests depart early, decide to go indoors instead of staying out in the sun by the pool because they're getting covered by dust. The goal of accomplishing this demolition should not be at the price of citizens or unaware travelers of the hazard that they're facing, especially when it's airborne. One of our staff members is experiencing some really serious sinus issues right now as well. So we need a solution to contain the dust, not just try, and complete the job without compromising health. We like to recognize Gwen and Steve of the code enforcement team. They've been very receptive. They came out right away today when we said, okay, they're pinching it again and the dust is covering all the cars and we're breathing it. And they hustled over there and by the time they got there, the machine broke again. So they didn't see it in action. But I shared pictures and some videos with them. They recognize the problem, but with the hose that they're trying to shoot at it, it just gets knocked down by the wind and the dust just goes nuts. We want the property to be right as well, so it's hard for me to ask a stoppage of work and until we find a solution. I know they have a lot of crews here, but we're asking for some help because we're covered.
Okay, thank you for coming forward
How
this
close are you?
We're 2 doors now, so there's Grand Prix, actually 3 doors, Grand Prix and then I think us. Flamingo and then ours.
Okay. So you're not as close as some of us.
Yeah, there's one right next door. The Grand Prix is right next door.
Okay, thank you very much, John, for coming forward this evening. Stuart, you're probably aware with Gwen and Steve working on it, but, hopefully, maybe you can, I'm sure with Gwen and Steve being aware of the issue, you're probably aware of it as well.
Yes,
So,
I know that they went out there on site today, but I didn't have a chance to actually get down and meet with both of them to discuss their findings and whatever potential solutions might be out there.
okay. All right, thank you, John.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What ordinances or what kind of things can we do, if anything?
Well, since this just came up, I'm thinking you need to do some due
Yes,
diligence.
yes. So I will get with Gwen and Steve and see what our options are from a city's perspective, but what I can tell you is for demolition and construction sites, our local ordinances generally don't govern those. Generally, our ordinances govern nuisances for established, and I'm looking at the city attorney as well to chime in, for existing development and land uses.
I'm going to need to research this, and I will do it tomorrow morning first thing. And I'll be in touch with staff.
Can I make a?
Certainly, yes.
Sir, what kind of economic loss are you speaking of? When you speak about people that are no longer, they want to leave early, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we've only had 2 guests that have left a day early, so that hasn't been a huge impact, but there's dust that's covered the air conditioning units, the pool pumps. We don't know the issue at the moment. And we have some people that are complaining. We have some people that have stayed for 6 weeks, some elderly folks that have some compromised lung issues anyway, and they're being challenged.
I mean, Stuart, one of I don't see a very easy solution to this, given the fact that they have to continue to do what they're doing. My recommendation, for whatever it's worth, is for you to meet with this gentleman and sit down and see if there is some kind of remuneration help that we can get, cleaning, all the things he's speaking about, the dust on the cars, this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There may be some financial help that we can give this gentleman and to help his business. I think it's unexpected. It's certainly not our fault. It's not his fault either. There may be some middle ground that we can do to help him with his business. He shouldn't have to suffer, and maybe we can allocate a few dollars to be able to help ameliorate the situation.
Okay, yeah, again, we don't want to set a precedent, so I want to make sure, Stuart, that you're lockstep with John and Becky on this. And I'm, not that I don't have sympathy for you. We just bought a condo in the peninsula. We knew that it was going under construction. When someone goes to rent it, I said, your balcony will not be there from X time to X time, and it will be noisy. I have had 3 people that have left. I've refunded them their money because you didn't tell me it was this noisy. I missed the balcony, all of that. So I feel your pain. I know the end result, when mine is done, will be, that'll be up to perfection. I'm hoping that we can move this along more, but again, we hear you, and Stuart will get with you, okay? Thank you, John. Thanks for coming this evening.
I have one more question. Have you talked with Acres or anybody about what they suggest they can do to mitigate the dust?
Steve consulted with...
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm going to call Joe Hopkins up. Go ahead, you answer. But Joe, do you have any information for us on this?
I think I do, Mayor.
If you could say your name and the position you have.
For the record, my name is Joe Hopkins. I'm the authorized agent for Acres with regard to development in the city of Daytona Beach Shores. I appreciate the concerns, and I'll bring this to the attention of Acres Acres Capital and their demolition contractor tomorrow morning. I'm of the opinion that they should control the dust, and we'll see if there's measures that can be implemented to better contain this thing. It is pretty high up right now. We start from the top, work our way down. So there's a large distance from the top of that building all the way down to the ground that creates an opportunity for the dust to be born. So I'll bring this to the attention of them tomorrow. And if you'd like an update, Mayor, I can report.
Certainly. Okay. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming up. Stuart, do you have anything to add, or that's it for right now? No. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. What items do we have for the next agenda?
She wants to speak.
Oh, do you have an audience comment, Sandy? If you'd like to come up.
On the sheet, though.
Okay. I'll make you fill one out later on.
I will. I know the
You know the drill. You've been here often enough.
So I'm Sandy Cook with Realty Pros 3118 South Atlantic Avenue, and I just wanted to add a little information about the townhomes. So it is a weekly rental policy. In my experience, pretty much all of the buildings function alike. That the season from, let's say, November until April, when we call them the snowbirds arrive, they stay for a time. If they're coming like from Canada or from up north, they stay for like 3 months or they stay longer than a week. In other words, they're not going to travel here for 1 week from New York. However, in the summertime, every building is busy. We see the grandkids come. That's when all of us have friends that want to come to the beach and visit us. So every building is busy, especially because we have the Daytona 500 and summertime, like the fireworks and all of the summer activities at the beach. So that brings us, though, to, I think it was the perfect location for this, because the Cloverleaf that sits just behind the townhomes, they have an annual policy. Oceans Grand has a monthly policy. So it's not too much. We, as a whole community, we do not have an abundance of weekly rental buildings. So I don't want us to leave here tonight and think that, oh my gosh, we have 25 new homes that are going to have weekly rentals. I don't think that's the case. The majority of the interest in that community so far has been that the people want to use them themselves for the winter months and then rent them periodically, like most of the other housing that we have. Florida is a second home community, Florida is a second home state, so I think it fits right in with our whole master plan.
Thank you, Sandy.
Have there actually been any sales in?
Oh, I really don't know that. I'm not a party to the actual contracts. I don't even know if it's transferred to be able, I think we had to have that plat
CO.
Yeah.
You do.
before we
CO.
can do anything. So I would say no sales yet, but I just didn't want everyone to leave and say, oh my gosh, there's going to be all these rentals over there, and that's really not the case. It's a beautiful community, and we're seeing people that go there that want to live there as their primary home. That's more and more the case. We've seen a big trend with that, a shift in the market with primary homeowners coming to Florida. So,
Thank you, Sandy.
thank you.
Okay, and did we left off with any items for the next agenda? Okay, if not, then the meeting